guys, Claudia Boleyn here, and this is day 3 of the lockdown vlogs, day 3 of what? I don't know, I don't think any of us know right now. I don't know if I look more tired today or not. I have got foundation on, and I've got blusher on, and I've got a tiny bit of like coloured lip balm on. People have been very kind in the comments of my last 2 videos saying, oh, you look so nice without makeup. But I have to break the illusion and tell you that that wasn't me without makeup, that was me with some foundation on. I did have foundation on. And I put blusher on today and a little bit of colour on my lips because, well, A, because I'm vain, B, because I'm starting to think this will be a historical artefact for my future grandchildren, grandcats, and, you know, I want them to see me looking alright. And C, because, oh god, I was really not well last night, so don't worry, I don't think I've got the blooming coronavirus, but because I have emetophobia anyway, I am not good with getting ill. So I woke up like, it was like in the early hours of the morning, I say that, it was probably like 5 o'clock or something, and like the whole room was spinning. So I kind of like managed to kind of stumble out of bed, and like stumble to get my bin and go into the bathroom and everything. I just felt so bad, and like the only way I can describe it is like when you get a really bad sickness bug. Oh, it was awful, it was so bad. So mum was like up as well, like she was, because she knows I get like really stressed about stuff, and she was like telling me to do deep breaths, which kind of helped, but it just went on all night, and I was so hot and cold. And you know when you're like shivering but you don't know if you're hot or cold and your whole chest is vibrating. Anyway, so that was last night. I don't have like a cough or anything, so I'm pretty sure it's not anything to worry about. I've got a bit of a sore throat, but I think it's because I was sick last night. But yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it because I know people have different symptoms and stuff, but I don't think that I'm particularly at risk necessarily. So yeah, if this is the virus, then I'm being sensible and keeping an eye on it, and I'm not counting it out, but I'm also not being overly panicky because I'm okay. Like, I've been able to get up and like wash my hair and everything today, and you know, it's not made me like lie in bed, as I've heard a lot of people who've had the actual virus have said, so I'm sure it'll be fine. I don't think this will be up in time, but just in case this is of interest, if anyone else is doing it as well, we could talk about it tomorrow maybe. There's the Doctor Who Rose watch along tonight at 7 o'clock. We're all going to play Rose at the same time. So that's the 2005 episode. I'm excited about that. There was a short story by Russell T Davies published today, which I was extremely pleased with, because you know how much I hate the Day of the Doctor, and the idea, like the actual principle, the idea of the War Doctor, like as an idea, just bugs me so much. And he had originally written this piece, which was the 8th Doctor regenerating into the 9th Doctor, because in my head the 8th Doctor was the War Doctor, and then because of what he had done, he regenerated into 9, and that's why 9's character is so full of kind of self-hatred and self-loathing. Anyway, Stephen Moffat had other ideas, which is his right as showrunner, but it's also my right to completely discount that from my own personal canon. So yeah, Rusty Davies has written like a tiny, like little nice snippet about that regeneration, which is nice because like it allows me to further live in my world where Day of the Doctor is not a thing and there is no War Doctor, because I just don't see the point of the War Doctor. Anyway, yeah, so we're going to be watching Rose tonight. Rusty Davies is on Twitter to tweet along, so yeah, that should be good. The Doctor Who community has actually been really great while this has happened. I mean, sometimes the Doctor Who community annoys me, like, just not them necessarily, but fandom in general, because I can find fandom spaces to become quite, I don't mean cult-like, but it becomes like there's gatekeeperiness, and like I've made videos before about like freedom of thought gets a little bit like there's one way to think and that's it. And also you have a lot of stuff in fandom spaces which is like sexism, racism, all that nasty stuff. Like, there's a lot of layers to fandom spaces. There's hierarchies, there's people who think they're above other people, there's people who think they're like medieval peasants to the writers and the actors. Like, you see people like bootlicking and acting like they're below, and I don't get it, because I've never seen myself as below or above anybody, so it's just not my personality. It makes me a little bit annoyed, but yeah, so that should be fun, hopefully, if I don't get too irritated with certain parts of the fandom. Like, there's 2 parts I find annoying. There's like the ultra like teacher's pet, like, oh, thank you for, oh, I was going to say something rude then. Thank you for blessing us with whatever you blessed us with, that kind of thing, like uber grateful, but to a kind of like subservient degree. And then there's the, like, really annoying, like, not my doctor people. I saw a tweet the other day, it was, like, yesterday, I think, and Jodie Whittaker has made a really nice video of her as the Doctor, just a short little video talking about, like, as the Doctor, saying to kids, like, don't worry, follow the advice, everything will be alright, everything's always alright in the end, and it was really sweet and nice, and filmed off her own back. I think it was her and Matt Stevens and Chris Chibnall who decided on it. Anyway, it was lovely. And I saw, like, there's people under the tweet, like, from the, like, people who don't like Jodie saying things like, oh, this is why I can't empathise with Jodie, because I try not to hate her, but I just hate her because she's trying to one-up Peter Capaldi, who had also previously done a lovely video as the Doctor, being nice to kids. I can't bear that sort of fandom. It's, oh my god, it's for kids. Like, I know we all enjoy it, but that specifically, like, it was just a message for scared kids. Like, get a life, please. Anyway, I'm going to answer some questions. Hopefully, if you have any more questions, send them my way. I don't know how long this is going to last for. You might run out of questions. You may not care to hear any more. I've just heard my mum cough downstairs. That's how weird society is right now. Like, I hear a cough and I'm like, a cough. Okay, so, I screenshotted these, but they're quite small. Okay, so, Dean Leek asked me, do you watch any other soaps apart from Emmerdale? EastEnders is the only one I watch. I actually am only watching EastEnders at the moment because I don't, well, to tell a lie, I watch classic Emmerdale all the time, like, whenever I can. Joe Sugden's funeral was today in classic Emmerdale, and it was really sad. I prefer that to the show at the moment. I just feel like the show's really lost its way, and I feel like it's become so boring. Like, I just don't find it compelling, and I started drifting out of it when Robert left, but kind of before then it had already become quite dull, and I was kind of in it for loyalty and because I cared about the characters, and then the characters I really cared about sort of left, and I just kind of thought, right, I need to get away from this. Also, there's some really irresponsible storytelling recently that just hasn't been addressed and just makes me annoyed. So, yeah, I've drifted out of it for the moment, but hopefully it'll get really good again. Like, there are certain periods, I think soaps go through, like, cycles of being super good. EastEnders is in such a good place right now. It's Kate Oates and John Sen who are in charge of it, and I just think it's incredible what they've done. Like, the character work is so good, and I mean, I watch a soap, I think the reason most people watch soaps are because of the family dynamics and the characters, and a soap doesn't work, in my opinion. I don't think it's successful if you don't care about the characters or have well-written characters. Emmerdale has become very plot-driven, whereas EastEnders, in my opinion, is getting it much more right, because the plots are character-driven. So it's the characters and their personalities and their conflicts that are driving the plots, so it just seems to feel more... It's just more exciting and more human, and I'm just not enjoying Emmerdale right now, unfortunately. But yeah, I do watch them, and I've watched Corrie on and off, but now it's Ian McLeod. Is it McLeod? I always get it wrong, and I have beef with him because of the biphobic story in 2017. It's not deep beef, but I just kind of don't have a particular inclination to watch that at the moment, really. Okay, Maria Jose, I'm so sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. Okay, everyone peer pressure her into giving us a bookshelf tour with 33 likes. I don't appreciate peer pressure, but I understand what you're saying. I will get around to doing that at some point during this lockdown. Not today, because I'm just too tired, but when I've got my assignment in, I'll probably get loads of books out and show you them properly and talk about some of my favourites, that sort of thing, because I know a lot of people have been quite interested in that. Marina Georgiou asked, okay, so if you do book reviews, what are your thoughts on the A Series of Unfortunate Event books and the recent Netflix adaptation? Because you can see the books on the shelf behind me. Yes, there they are. I'm currently on book 9 of my first reread and appreciating the humour so much more now I'm older. I think they're fantastic. I'm definitely going to encourage my children to read those books, should I have children. They were books that appealed to me because I was already a child who has always been someone who thinks a lot about corrupt authority, and I feel like it's the sort of book that makes children more aware that when there's injustice they do have a right to stand up, and that adults are not necessarily always right or always working in their best interests. I just think that's such a good message for children, that there are good adults, but also there are bad adults. I don't like the idea that you have to respect your elders and their decisions no matter what, because that's not healthy for kids in so many different ways. Like, it just teaches humour and criticism, and, like, Lemony Snicket, his actual role in the story. I know he's actually Daniel Handler in real life, and Lemony Snicket is fictional, but his funny, like, reviews, he's a critic, like a theatre critic, And that was genuinely what got me into criticism. I remember at school in year 7 and year 8 doing like, we got to do criticism of Shakespeare texts, and I did mine like really like humorously, and I got like a really, really high grade for it, and it just, I felt like those books helped me so much. And also I love them because they're about a sibling bond, and I've always really related to Violet, because I'm the oldest sibling, I'm the big sister, and I love that her motto is that there's always something. And although I'm not a sciencey person, I'm probably more like Klaus, I like that she's so resilient, and even when things feel really hopeless, she always keeps trying, and there's always something. And in some ways I've kind of absorbed that, I like to think. Oh, the Netflix adaptation, I love it. I mean, I enjoyed the Jim Carrey film. It kind of annoyed me even when I was younger because there were so many parts that had changed, and the funniness about those books are like the specific characters and just throwaway comments, and you've really got to be in that world. There is a really funny audio commentary on the DVD of the the Jim Carrey film, where Lemony Snicket, I think played by Daniel Handler, is doing like an audio commentary, and he starts playing a flute or something, and it's better than watching the actual film on its own. It's more of a kind of serious unfortunate events experience. I love the Netflix adaptation. I think the casting's great. I think it's spot on. I think it's so funny. And the music, I love the music. Willie the Mailboy too says, if you think the stores being cleared is odd from your end, you should imagine the fun I've had restocking after that. 10 days in and we still can't keep toilet paper or bottled water on the shelves. Yeah, that must be so weird. Yeah, I suppose it must be so odd for people who are actually, like, working in the stores. It must feel so odd. Like, do you feel tempted to, I don't know if you actually, like, talk to the customers or if you just stock and then you have to go out and do more. Do you ever feel tempted to just say to them, like, why are you buying so much toilet roll? What's your process behind that? Do you feel tempted? Okay, Natasha Holenstein asked, I've been getting into Tudor history lately, and I watched the Tudors TV show and have listened to Six the Musical, so I was wondering if you have seen or listened to either of those, and how did you find the portrayal of Anne Boleyn? I want to do a video at some point about different portrayals of Anne, because I feel like I've seen most of them. I haven't seen Six the Musical. I'm going to be completely honest, it might be fantastic. I've heard really good things about it. It doesn't immediately appeal to me, because what I've seen of it, I think I saw it on like some sort of charity show or something. It feels kind of caricature-y, and I just feel like little things, like the person playing Catherine of Aragon did not have a Spanish accent. Like, little things like that just kind of, and I don't know, I'm nervous, because I'm always nervous about how they're going to deal with Catherine Howard, because her story's actually, like, really tragic, and she was very young, and she was murdered, and she was essentially an abuse victim, so I always kind of worry about that. I will kind of dip my toes in with that at some point. I just haven't kind of had the urge to do it yet, but I will. The Tudors, I loved the portrayal of Anne in the Tudors. I think it's one of the absolute best. I don't think it's necessarily one of the most accurate. It's very much her personality, but imagined as if she was now, but also set then, I think. Because she's more sort of willful and more powerful than perhaps she might have been at the time. I do think it shows that scene where she says we're on the edge of a golden world and she twirls in her dress. Some of the imagery for her story is fantastic. The music is fantastic. Natalie Dormer plays her so well, and it's a big deal that I would say that, because usually I'm very sort of like, Anne Boleyn should be played by someone with like dark eyes, because, you know, she's known as like having dark eyes, as dark hooks for the soul. And yeah, so that's a big deal that I think that she did a good job, because she doesn't look anything like Anne, but I think she got her spirit-ish. Okay, Joe Carter asks, I'm so glad you're doing these, thank you. Have you got any plans for when you finish your uni course? I'm also in my 3rd year, but this situation is making it even harder to plan ahead. Well, I've kind of I want to do my masters, so I'd like to do my MA in creative writing, because that's my kind of passion in life and what I want to do. I've got several novels. I've got 2 novels that are kind of more planned than the others. I would really like to, once I've finished this 3rd year, I'm going to have a break before I start my MA in October, and I want to get one of the novels finished and try and get a publisher for that. I'm really not sure other than that. I want to do screenwriting, novel writing. I don't know where I'm going to go with that. I do poetry. I'm just going to see. I'm going to start submitting work. I really just don't know. I just know that I want to write, and I was put here on the earth to write. I think that's probably the reason that I'm here. I've thought about that a lot, about kind of why I'm here, like especially because of the mental health stuff, and I feel like I'm potentially supposed to be here because of the writing, and also potentially because of the mental health stuff that I've had. Like maybe I'm supposed to help other people feel less alone with that. I feel like maybe that's sort of the point. Not that there's a reason that it happened, but I like to think that's that's a reason that I'm kind of here. Okay, Blue Yellow Unicorn says, I have thought of a question, yay. Your current favourite female character in any piece of media, because I'm always looking for more good ones. Also, have you seen Sense8 or One Day at a Time, both on Netflix? I definitely recommend them both. In fact, if I had to pick, I'd say Sense8 is my favourite TV show ever. I haven't seen Sense8. I've heard so many good things about it, and it's one of those things that I've said I'm going to watch, but I just never have. Do you know what? You actually saying that has made me feel more intrigued, so I think maybe I might check that out when I get a moment. I've not seen One Day at a Time either. I don't even know what that is, so I will look that up as well. My current favourite female character in a piece of media. This is a weird one, because I've got loads and loads of female characters I love. I mean, you'll know that I'm obsessed with, like, Wanda Maximoff from the Marvel Comics. The MCU, I appreciate what they've done in some respects, but that's not the complete Wanda. I mean, like, Wanda fights for the rights of Roma people. She's very much, she has her mental health issues. She's a real sort of powerhouse, and I love her relationship with her brother and her family, and it's her and Pietro's whole story in the comics is just so good. Obviously in Game of Thrones I'm pretty obsessed with Cersei and Sansa, because Sansa is a good, wonderful character. I think she's so strong after what she goes through, and I like that she's so feminine, because it shows that there's strength in femininity. And Cersei I like in terms of not liking her as a person, but pitying her and thinking she's so well crafted. Because she's almost the opposite of Sansa, in the sense that that's what two young girls in that society who are quite feminine, how they dealt with it, and it made Cersei become cruel, like the people who were cruel to her. It made Sansa become clever, but also merciful, even though she wasn't shown mercy, so I feel like there's a lesson in that. Weirdly, I'm going to say, because I'm so into EastEnders at the moment, I kind of think I'm going to say Whitney Dean, maybe? It's not like, she's not like a character that like I'm obsessed with or anything like that. I just think currently she's a character that I find very intriguing, and she's very well written, very strong. She's been through a very traumatic background. I think she's very well acted. They're just giving her a lot of depth at the moment, and she's having like a mental health storyline, a storyline about stalking. She actually stabbed somebody. She stabbed her stalker recently. That's something that's so interesting to me as well, because when I kind of abandoned Emmerdale, they had a storyline where Victoria Sugden, who I love, was assaulted and attacked, and she became pregnant, and it's a really dark story. And she was like, the mother of the rapist was like harassing her and moved into her village and like wouldn't leave her alone, and it was traumatising her, yet the narrative was telling us feel sorry for the mother, and like almost portraying Victoria not wanting her rapist family in her life as selfish. And now they're living some sort of weird happy existence, and I can't watch this now because she's with the brother of the rapist, and the rapist mother's all involved, and it's really unhealthy. Like the whole framing of it has just been so bad. Whereas on the other hand, Whitney has been allowed to emote and express she's been stalked by her partner who only had something to do with her because his dad had assaulted her in the past. It's a bit complicated because it's soap, so it's a kind of similar situation. The idea of being stalked and being terrified, and they're allowing Whitney to feel all those complicated emotions, mercy for him, pity for him, because he's not necessarily the abuser himself, and he's a victim because he was lied to and he's lost a family member. Like, it's just being done so much better, and I don't know, I'm not answering this very well, but Whitney Dean. Sam Hall says, on the subject of a swing to the left, what was interesting about the transition from John Major's government to Tony Blair's was that there was very little differences between the two parties. Blair's Labour had become more of a centre party, as had Major's Tories. The big difference in that election was that Murdoch changed his support from Tory to Labour during that time. It's funny how traditionally right-wing voters like to claim they don't listen to the media, when all the evidence suggests that most of their decisions are driven by the media. I think what they mean when they say that is that they don't like inclusivity in film and TV, and they don't like things that don't boost their own personal prejudices. That is what they reject. But they are very easily swayed by the media and misinformation. History demonstrates this on multiple occasions. Yeah, I think you're really right, and I think that's part of my reason the kind of conflict that's going on like in the Labour Party right now, and this is not a video about Labour politics, but it's a debate that we're kind of going through because we want to be electable, we want to be elected because a Labour government is going to be better than a Tory government. However, ideologically, I am opposed to the sort of party that Tony Blair had. I thought it was too centrist. I thought it didn't do enough for the vulnerable. It wasn't true socialism for me, and I think Labour should be a socialist party, and is. And I feel like it was kind of co-opted by centrists who now think it's their party. I can understand the argument of wanting to get elected. I do get that, but I don't think that we can I don't think we can compromise on the essential principles of the party, because the further we move into the centre, towards the right, I feel like that kind of gives the right, that are already very right-wing in this country, more leeway to shift it even further. And then what's going to happen? Like, I don't like that. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, I think Tony Blair's Labour was very central, and I think a lot of people who talk about Tony Blair as a great success story for the left don't necessarily take that on board, because it was a Labour victory, yes, so technically on paper it's good, but a lot of harm was done. It didn't go as far as it could have. It wasn't socialist. I mean, we've got the Iraq War. I've said before, I personally view Tony Blair as a war criminal, and I'm kind of quite shocked that still nothing's really being done about that, and he's still kind of talking about politics like he has a right to after what he's done. I mean, I don't know why he's not kind of ashamed and focusing on charity work and staying out of it, and just, you know, making up for that, if you can even make up for something like that. And it's interesting what you're saying about like the papers as well, because that's a conversation I was having with Dan the other day, because we're kind of we're both like Socialist Labour, and it's one of those conversations where you kind of go round and round in circles, because I can understand both points, although I have one perspective myself. It's like you need to appease the papers in some way to get elected, it seems, because the papers have so much control over people, manipulating people, that you need to make them like a candidate. However, they're only going to like a candidate who's central and is more right-wing, which isn't necessarily the sort of candidate you want. So it's like this sort of awful, do you go for the left candidate who will put more restrictions on that media and make things fairer, which is the ultimate goal? Will they even get in, though? That's the thing. Like, I don't know, I've got a lot to talk about this, like, especially in terms of, with Jeremy Corbyn, for example, people saying, oh, he's unelectable. That kind of drives me a bit mad, because I don't think he was unelectable. I don't even agree in the concept of unelectable. If someone is up for election, they are electable. I feel like it's like the Emperor's New Clothes. Everyone tells themselves, it's kind of like the centrist Labour were saying, oh, no one would vote for him, therefore we're not going to vote for him, whereas if they had voted for him, he would have been elected and would have been called electable. Anyway, I know a lot of you guys have different opinions on that, which is fine, but it's a complicated one, isn't it? But yeah, I agree with your point. Actually, I do have something more to say on this. The Labour leadership elections now. So obviously, Jeremy Corbyn's gone. He did his last PMQs yesterday, I think it was, and I was really sad to see him go, but he's still going to be doing activism and trying to make society better, and I personally am very grateful for what he's done, and I have a lot of respect for him. And this is a conversation I was having with my grandma, who is a socialist as well, and she is, her preferred candidate, there's three. There's Lisa Nandy, there's Keir Starmer, and there's Rebecca Long-Bailey. So for me, I'm a fan of Rebecca Long-Bailey because her policies are, to me, the most progressive and the ones that I support the most. Grandma prefers Keir Starmer because the thing that's frustrating is that I think he's someone who would be considered more electable because people who are centrist, people who are sexist, or those sort of people would be more likely to vote for him than Rebecca Long-Bailey. So Grandma's kind of thinking, well, if what we need to do is get in and that's the most important thing, and if that means that people need to see a good, strong man and vote for him, then that's worth it, and I can understand that completely. My thinking, I kind of thought about it for a while, and I just kind of thought, I personally am going to vote on principle and for the candidate that I most align with, but I can understand that completely. Paige Turner asked, do you have any music that you're listening to help you stay grounded during lockdown? To be honest, I just listen to Florence whenever I'm stressed. Like, it's just my go-to. any Florence, especially mostly her early stuff, like her Ceremonials and Lungs are my kind of favourites. I listen to the versions where she sings, and I also listen to the instrumentals as well. They just make me feel calmer, and I don't know, I've just always loved those albums, like especially Lungs. Lungs is my favourite album, and it just calms me down a lot. Also, some Joanna Newsom has been quite nice to listen to. If you don't know who she is, she kind of has a voice like, I don't know how to describe it, like an elf or something. But it's really good, and she plays a harp, and it's kind of old, like medieval, but it's American, and I don't know, it's really good. And Megan M, on a similar note, said, would love to hear you talk about musicians and songs you like. It's really fun when people break down why they like certain songs and what artists they think are overrated, etc. I'll probably do that more in another one if you don't mind, because then I can actually take the time to think about my actual favourites and why, and underrated people, overrated people, all that kind of thing. Yeah, at the moment I'm just going to say Florence. Listen to Florence. Okay, Ren asks, seeing as it's on iPlayer, what do you think of Torchwood? Some of it I enjoy, but I thought Jack and Yanto's relationship could have been explored better. Plus, I fear that episode when they cover the Cyberwoman in barbecue sauce and fed to a pterodactyl will be forever seared in my memory. Well, I think with Torchwood, I watched it all, and I enjoyed it for the fact that the character development, it was a bit dark for me at times. I am not someone who particularly likes very dark themes, but I did enjoy what I saw. Children of Earth is my favourite era of Torchwood, because I just feel like it's just relevant. It's very Russell T Davies, it's very Years and Years, it's very sort of turn left, it's that sort of what's the human reaction when there's a disaster, what's the good, what's the bad, the resistance, the people that, like, just the whole idea of it. It's really good. I don't need to tell you that, I'm sure, because you're someone who watches Torchwood. But yeah, I'm going to rewatch a lot of early Torchwood. There's some dodgy stuff in Torchwood, like even at the time, like I think it's the second episode where there's the idea, or it might even be the first episode, where Owen uses like a perfume or something and it makes people want to have sex with him, and it kind of feels like rapey and weird, and that is a bit disturbing. And there's stuff about the Cyberwoman I remember, which is incredibly sexist, and I believe that was Chibnall as well, because when he first took over Doctor Who, I was worried and I thought, oh god, what if it's sexist? But actually he hasn't been sexist once in his whole time as showrunner, so I'm very happy. Oh, Ren also says, I think also this situation may make people rethink how they consume and perhaps quicken change to buying more renewable and sustainable products. As the world seems to be getting worse, people may try to be more self-sufficient. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I hope that people realise that we need to start being more green and sustainable, and I hope that the government recognises how important that is, in the sense that they make that more accessible to people who are poorer, because it's a lot easier to be environmentally friendly and, you know, buy organic and all that kind of stuff if you've got money. If you're a struggling single parent and you don't have much cash, it's harder to do that. So I think that's something they need to invest in, so all people can engage in that, because it helps everyone in the long run, doesn't it? Time for Chai asks, have you ever dealt with pressure to choose a particular career? My mental health is a significant challenge in my daily life, and I don't know how to explain to people the need to take this into consideration when choosing a career path. Well, first of all, have I ever dealt with pressure to choose a particular career? I've always known I could be whatever I wanted, or that I should aim for what I want. I think my grandma and granddad are quite into academic stuff, so I remember growing up, Grandma used to say, you know, I want my grandkids to be like a doctor, a dentist, and a doctor, a dentist, and was it a vet? No, a doctor, a dentist, and a lawyer. So, I mean, maybe she will get a doctor, but it won't be a medical doctor for me. It will be a doctor of English Lit or something. I'm going to get an MA, hopefully, so, you know, that should please her, I don't know. But, yeah, there's not been, like, serious pressure on me in terms of what I want to do. Like, my grammar school was a bit rubbish for that, because they were, like, this science grammar school, and oh god, they were just obsessed with attaining like high grades for the score sheets and everything against other schools. And I remember careers, like we had PSHE, and I remember like one of the teachers kind of being like, you're from a grammar school, like you should be going to university, you should be doing this, and it was like, oh my god. Oh, no. And I should say we have grammar schools around here, because in Kent we still have grammar schools. What you do is you do your 11 plus. If you pass your 11 plus, you go to a grammar school. If you don't pass your 11 plus, you go to like a normal secondary school. And like at first when I was younger, I liked that, because I feel like it was like, ooh, I got a high grade and now I got to go to a grammar school and I'm so smart. But actually now you think about it, it's ridiculous, because how can you judge someone's intelligence on one test they do when they're 11 years old, like for the rest of their life? And also, like, I'm so bad at maths, for example. I'm so bad at maths, and I was in a grammar school with, like, probably because my English was very good, like, I'm a good writer, and yet my maths was appalling. So it would make more sense that everyone just went to normal schools, and there were sort of like different levels within your year depending on how good you were at a certain subject, because I certainly should not have been in a grammar school for my maths at all. Yeah, I think thinking about mental health is something that's changed for me a lot. I mean, I had lots of ambitions when I was younger about what I was going to do, and then I came to the realisation when I had the breakdown and when I did therapy that I would have to take a slightly different path to what I wanted to do. I realised I wasn't going to be like a lot of my friends. I wouldn't be able to just go get a flat in London and live in London. I mean, like, even money aside, like, just in terms of logistically being well enough to do that, I knew that wouldn't be me. So I would need to do something that would take into account that I might have mental health dips in my life and that I would get very exhausted, which is why I decided to get the degree, because I want to be able to maybe tutor or something if my mental health gets bad. That's something I can do from home, and that's why I want to be a writer, because a lot of that work is done from home. So hopefully that will be a thing and that will come true. I don't know. I'm going to try and get some stuff published later this year, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so that's all I'm going to answer for today. I'm starting to feel a little bit again, so I'm going to go drink some water and just kind of chill. I will see you tomorrow, hopefully, for another vlog. I will answer, hopefully, questions that I haven't answered from the other videos. As always, please leave me questions in the comments, or anything you want me to talk about, or anything you want to say that I can read on your behalf or something, or anything like that. Okay, I love you loads, and I will see you tomorrow. Okay, love you. Bye.